So here's a rare shot of me. Oh, I forgot to pause the slideshow. Of looks like Mario Brothers cabinets. Is that?
Yeah, that's Mario Brothers that we were doing final assembly on, and then these are the ones you're looking at the tops of the ones that are getting ready to ship out. It was so amazing back then for a television set to be able to play the same game that you had in the arcade, because we were used to the Atari 2600s with the little character graphics on them, etc. And this thing looked exactly like the arcade games, the Nintendo games. I mean, Sega had some better graphic games with that came along with Outrun and things like that, but this was just amazing. And then another really cool thing about this is that this is the first home system to use the D-pad. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whose favorite controller is the original NES controller. Okay, I love you guys because you are true gamers. Those things with the extra thumbsticks, very cool, etc. But it's kind of like an automatic versus a stick car. You know, you take away, you start using those thumbsticks. Totally different experience from getting thumb burn from playing with this controller for hours and hours and hours. It was introduced with the Donkey Kong LCD game, the Game & Watch, the D-pad controller invented by Mr.
Anyone?
Yoko, yeah.
Was it Yoko?
Yeah. But so that was developed, I think, in '83,
right? It was really
and survived as the dominant controller until like for 6 or 7 years. So it was an amazing invention.
I read something once about him where they had just kind of thrown a Donkey Kong D-pad into a controller just to try it, and they were prototyping stuff, and they're like, "Oh wait, this is right. this is what it should be."
Incredibly precise.
Yeah.
Very, very exacting in what it does. The angles, a little bit harder to get those 45-degree angles. That's where the thumb burn comes from. But a very precise controller. And if you look at the other controllers that came out around that time, or the ones that came before it with the silly little toothpicky joystick, when we were used to big, heavy, hard knob, whack them around arcade joysticks, and you couldn't do that with something that you were holding in your hand, because it was not tethered to the ground or tethered to something like a 250-pound arcade game. So you needed, that shift over the D-pad was a huge deal from us. When Sega came out with their games and Coleco did, et cetera, and they had kind of a squishy, from my perspective, a squishy pad. And so to me, this was the first example of just awesome Nintendo hardware design, was that they had such a great controller.
So you guys are excited about this amazing home arcade system. The U.S. retail industry not so excited about video games at this point.
I was excited about it, but nobody else about the Famicom, which I just opened up the box, plugged this thing in, it was great, I could play it was awesome. But nobody else in Nintendo was really excited about it. They were still thinking about the next arcade games. Don was thinking about how to do the VS system and things like that and make cabinets for it. But I was really enthusiastic because, again, I could play the same games maybe at my apartment then that I could play in the arcades or I could play in the warehouse, which was so cool. So I said, Mr. Arakawa, this is great. We got to bring this out. This is awesome. Everybody's going to love it. And I learned Mr. Arakawa's got like 3 things that he does. One of them is he goes, And so I'd say again, what do you think? I mean, it'll be great. And then this is the second thing that he did, and you go, Mr. Arakawa is a very smart guy, a very engaging guy, not a big talker, understood and spoke English very well from the first day I met him, but he either was a little bit insecure about it, which I think is probably not the case, or he just used it as a tool to not talk when he didn't want to talk. and also to understand more than maybe the person on the other side of the conversation thought he understood. But nobody was interested in Nintendo in bringing this thing out right away. They were still into the arcade games.
But eventually, I mean, well, what made them interesting? Because there were some attempts even early on to get it out there, including that deal with Atari that right?
Yeah, so in '84, the arcade business had started to, it had really done this big bubble around Pac-Man and Donkey Kong and a bunch of other games, but then like 84-ish, it started, 84, 85, it was really starting to kind of slow down. And that combined with the history of the home video systems, which had had this big bubble, made everybody nervous that maybe the whole arcade industry was just going to go away. And because of that, they were looking for other things. And so that's when they put together the AVS, the Advanced Video System. And that was in late '84. And they showed this system. And all of the industrial design for this, meaning the housings on the outside, et cetera, were done by Lance Barr. Did I give you a picture of Lance? No. Anyway, Lance, I think, just recently retired.
Oh, did he? Yeah, because he was there forever.
Yeah, like Don. But they did this version of the Nintendo system, the Famicom, and actually this is very much like the Famicom in that, except for the silly joystick on the left. But it had a tape drive and it had a keyboard. The Famicom, you could also get a tape drive for storing memory, and also you had a keyboard, and you could use that for doing some very crude, basic programs. And then they had a keyboard hooked up to it, and it's a folding light gun with a handle folded down on it.
It's a very sort of sharper image, is the way I like to think of it, like that store.
Yeah, it was supposed to be, this is when all you had at home was a stereo and a radio and a television. And there weren't a lot of components out there. There were no video game systems, there were no laser discs or DVDs or Blu-rays or anything like that. So this was Nintendo's way of saying, here's something that you could put not in the back office to do computer programming, but you can put it out in your living room.
So, fire interest, kind of lukewarm from what we know. There was an exhibit to show this off at Winter CES, January '85. I think you might be the only person who took home a brochure. This is literally a scan from your brochure.
I'm a packrat. Thankfully, I kept a lot of stuff.
And in fact, this is actually in our archives now, thanks to you, so thanks for that.
Yeah, nobody was interested in it, none of the retailers, because the arcade industry was kind of going down, because the debacle of the Atari home systems. So nobody really wanted to touch this thing, although we were trying to kind of present it as Nintendo Japan, Mr. Arakawa, were trying to present it as something, new, techy, and cool. Nobody was really interested in it or taking a risk in it.
So back to the drawing board, literally in this case. So Japan came back with this design, right? Like the AVS.
No, this is Lance's. Lance did the AVS design,
right?
And then Japan said no, which pissed him off, and so he did the lunchbox design, which is what we ended up with. And this is what we then came back in the summer with, and the biggest addition there was Rob the Robot, and it looked not like, it looked more like a toy. And the fact that it had the Zapper and Rob the Robot was sufficient to kind of make it feel like, hey, this is a cool new game. It's not as simple as an Atari 2600 playing E.T. It's a cool new game. Boy, look at the graphics. It looks like the arcade games that you can play. And it has the Zapper with the V-blank technology. You guys all know how that works? Okay,
Tell us anyway.
And it had Rob the Robot, which was very, I open boxes, and when I opened the Rob box, I go, well, this is kind of cool. Again, Cal didn't tell me anything about this. And there's, you know, like 12 people in the company at the time, so everybody else is doing their stuff. So I'm the only person who's opening the boxes, plugging it in, putting batteries in the bottom of Rob. And then, you know, I can see from the instructions, point them the diagrams of how to use it, that you point them at the screen. And then all he does is do this really noisy thing as he moves his arm.
Crazy slow, too.
But he looks good.
He does.
He looks good.
Famicom Dojo.
Because this isn't actually a system, this is a woodblock carving as a prototype. And you can kind of see some weird minor differences, like the two controller ports are on top of each other. You can see really closely. And then the cart designs are kind of strange with very boring labels.